Hey guys, what's going on? It's MajiinBae. Welcome back to the channel. We got a new spoiler, which I'm pretty excited about, and I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about a little bit. Before we get into that, though, I did actually start a Patreon. I wanted to deliver a little bit more high-quality, high-level strategy content, specifically geared towards mostly wizards. And if you're interested in that, I posted like a 25-page written Kano guide. It's the first post on my Patreon. Check out the link down in the description. Okay, but the card that got spoiled recently at Calling Manila was Sigil of Brilliance. This is a yellow 0-cost lightning wizard instant aura. It's an Oscilio specialization. It says, at the beginning of your action phase, destroy this, and when it leaves the arena, draw a card. It was really interesting. So we've been kind of trying to figure out what Oscilio does for a long time. And spoiler alert, by the end of this video, we still don't know. But it gives us a couple of clues. Now, I want to talk just a bit about, if you haven't been caught up, first of all, Oscilio is one of the new wizards. He's an elemental wizard, 36 HP, Essence of Lightning, he can play lightning cards, and his ability says once per turn instant, discard an instant, draw a card. You may have noticed Sigil of Brilliance is, in fact, an instant, so we can discard it to draw a card anytime we want to, once per turn. And his weapon that was spoiled is Volzar the Lightning Rod. If you control an aura permanent with Sigil in the name, this costs 1 less. It's going to be free. Once per turn instant, pay 1, unless you have a Sigil on the board, then it's 0. Amp X, where X is the number of lightning cards you've played this turn. Now, Amp pluses the next arcane damage thing you do by 1, right? So if you play 2 lightning cards and then a spell that deals arcane damage, or something that deals arcane damage, you can go like lightning card, lightning rod, Amp 2. Next spell, if it would do 4, now, you red zap them. Instead of dealing 3, it now does 5, right? And that's kind of cool, I guess, but it's not really like a game plan, right? It's not like good enough to actually carry a deck at all. And we also haven't seen a lot of like damaging spells that we'd want to run, because you need to balance the lightning aspect with the arcane damage aspect. And so far in the set, with the spoilers that we've gotten, we haven't really seen mini spells that deal actual damage. We just have like one, I believe, the one that's basically like Voltic Bolt with a shock at the end, which is great. It's great, but we still aren't really sure if Oscilio is going to be playing a more like tempo-based play where he's aggressive and he plays like these lightning attacks and he tries to go like chip, 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 and then finish off his opponent, or if he's going to be more of a setup combo-based deck. And I think Sigil of Brilliance gives us a couple clues. But first, let's talk a little bit more about Volzar. The ability is pretty powerful. The first line of text was a mystery for a while because we hadn't seen any sigils. And then we got spoiled with some sigils. And, I eagerly poured over them. Sigil of Conductivity, blocks 1 arcane, gives you embodiment of lightning. Not the most important thing for a deck that's probably dealing arcane damage, right? Sigil of Cycles, you play it, you get to loot. That's cool, I guess. Sigil of Deadwood, Rune Chant. Like, these are, you get a Ponder token, right? Like, these are, they're not good, is what I'm trying to get to. Is that the sigils we've seen so far are not very good, right? They're below rate. For example, let's look at Sigil of Fendal. At the beginning of your action phase, destroy this when it leaves the arena, gain 1. So if you're playing Verdance and you have our ability activated, this is a blue gain 1, deal 1. That's next turn. Like, it's terrible card. So I was thinking to myself, oh, okay, I guess the sigils thing is more of a limited thing than a constructed thing, right? Maybe it's to make the draft format work better. There's a couple others that we've seen, something like Sigil of Sanctuary and stuff. We also saw like the instants, but you can't play those, so it doesn't matter. You can't play them on the board. So imagine my surprise when we were spoiled with Sigil of Brilliance. Now, this is a majestic specialization, right? And it's just not really a limited card. You know what I mean? Like, you don't print specializations at Majestic for limited. You do it for constructed. What's kind of like jumping out to me is that if I'm playing cards like Sigil of Brilliance and Channel Thunderstep with like the tome package and stuff, First of all, the first thing everyone's going to say is they're going to say, oh, yeah, it's a brainstorm deck. I really don't think it's a brainstorm deck for two reasons. One, LSS is not dumb. They're competitive card game players, and they know a brainstorm deck would be toxic. Like, you do not want an actual dedicated brainstorm deck to be in a format ever. That would be terrible for everybody. And two, I had another reason. Oh, yeah, they don't have Blazing Aether. Blazing Aether is kind of like a really, really, really important part of the Brainstorm package. And if you don't have it, in order to kill your opponent, you have to draw over 40 cards if you don't deal damage to them beforehand. And you just won't have 40 cards in your deck usually by that point in time. It's just not likely to be a Brainstorm deck. So what this card is leading me to believe is that Oscilio is going to be more of a setup combo deck. It feels like what you're going to try to do. Maybe it's like a ebb and flow type deck where you have like big turn, off turn, big turn, off turn, right? But it seems like you have a bunch of cards that can set you up for like massive amounts of success on a following turn, right? You have things like Sigil of Brilliance, possibly even Sigil of Forethought, but probably not. And then you get to your 6-7 card hand, right? Maybe you play Sigil of Brilliance and you set up your Channel Thunderstep and you pass the turn. On the following turn, this pops, you draw an extra card, right? And then you cast Red Tome, give it go again, draw 2 cards. You now have like a really, really large turn, right? You have like a 7+ card hand. Or I guess 7+ card hand at that point. That's nuts. What are you going to do with that? I don't know. Nobody knows yet. But we'll have maybe go again with Channel Thunderstep. We can go wide with a bunch of lightning cards into Volzar, into a big effect, maybe Aether Flare. If we can find something to play after that, we'll deal even more damage. We really just don't know. But that seems to be the more likely style of play since we've seen Sigil of Brilliance. The other style that I was considering was that it was going to be closer to what Aurora is doing, but with more wizardy stuff, right? A little bit more arcane damage. You're going to have like maybe some really strong breakpoint effects. You're going to be using things like Lightning Surge, and Entwined Lightning will probably still do that, maybe. I don't know. They're really good. And just try to like push aggressive damage and then close the game out with a flurry of spells. But this is leading me to believe that Oscilio is closest that we have to a Storm deck. Now, right now, Kano's kind of a Storm deck, but not really. And actually, I love him for that. I love that he's not actually Storm. Storm is my favorite Magic the Gathering mechanic, though. And I don't know. Another really cool combo wizard would be just what the doctor ordered for me. Now, I know the second part of this video is going to be talking about people and how they feel about Sigil. Specifically, people who are very disappointed with it. I know it's not like... A lot of people see this and think it's not very flashy. To me, it's the exact opposite. I saw this and I'm like, holy shit, I get to draw cards. This is the coolest shit in my life. Like, this is so fun. I love drawing cards. Let's look at the floor of Sigil of Brilliance, right? The absolute worst case scenario, what does this card do? Well, you discard it and you draw another card. So absolute worst case scenario, it's a redraw. It's a cantrip at instant speed. That's pretty good. Now let's pretend that you have a Sigil of Brilliance, you discard it, you draw another Sigil of Brilliance. What do we do then, right? At that point, you can't block with it. That is a miss. It's a yellow, which means it's not quite a blue, but it's not as like damning as a red. You can play a lot of his cards seem to be yellows, and a lot of them seem to be not very expensive that we've seen so far. Lightning tends to be a pretty cheap element. So a yellow is probably like fine to keep in hand. If we have to play it, we have another option. What this gives us is on the following turn, it gives us 3 value, right? Because you're going to draw an extra card. But the issue is that it's at the beginning of your action phase, you destroy it and you draw a card, which means that you'll still draw your 4 cards on the following turn, and then you won't have the information or the ability to block with the extra card you're going to draw of Sigil of Brilliance. You just don't know what the card is, and that is a downside. That does suck. However, when you play Sigil of Brilliance, it does turn on Volzar. It makes it free. And it gives you Amp 1 by itself. So if your hand is Sigil of Brilliance, Aether Dart, right? Then you play Sigil of Brilliance, you activate the staff, and you Aether Dart for 4. And that's with no resources. That's 2 cards. 2 card 4, not great, but considering that we get to draw an extra card on the following turn, That's not too bad. Let's just say it's 7. That's a 2-card 7, right? Because we give cards a standard of 3 value in this game. It's a little wonky because, like I said, we can't block with it, but we could block with a different 3 block and draw back. So let's say that Sigil of Brilliance plus a spell that you can cast is 7 value. That's pretty good. If we have let's use something like, I don't know, Voltic Bolt. 5 damage, 2 mana. We play Sigil of Brilliance, we amp 1, and then Voltic Bolt does 6. That's a 3-card 9. That's not the worst thing on the planet, but it's like not the best thing on the planet either. It's just, what I'm trying to get at here is that it's not bad in basically any of your situations. Maybe you draw 2. Well, I hope you got some life, because if you get to resolve both of these, you're about to go dummy on the next turn, right? Like, I think this card's really good, guys. I think the floor is much higher than people think it is. I think the minimum amount of value you get from Sigil of Brilliance is higher than people expect. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to drive home, is that it's not a do nothing. Well, it does a little something. And then if his game plan is to accumulate a bigger hand and have a large pop-off turn, then Sigil of Brilliance is going to be huge. It's going to be huge. I also am just a big fan of anything that gives you options. And Sigil of Brilliance, you can play it at instant speed to get it. You can play it at instant speed on your opponent's turn to get the card back immediately. You could play it on your own turn and then get the card back on the next turn. You can discard it to Oscilio. It activates Volzar. Like, Sigil of Brilliance just does a lot of things, and that is exciting to me. I was initially way more excited about Verdance, but I have to admit that lately some of the spoilers and stuff have made me go, maybe Oscilio's pretty cool. So I'm gonna watch with bated breath to see what kind of spoilers we get next. We still have most of the set. That's it. I just wanted to ramble about Oscilio. I hope you liked the video. We're going to keep talking about any other spoilers that I think kind of change what my mental idea of the wizard builds look like. So once we get the Verdance weapon, I'll probably do a video on that. Once we get some more cards that go into the decks that maybe shape our idea of how the decks play, I'll probably do a video on that. And then the second we can, we're going to start building. Anyway, thank you guys so much for coming out. I appreciate it. See you next time.